The day I received Charles's medical report was also the day I uncovered his affair with his secretary. He claimed it was a momentary lapse in judgment, begging for my forgiveness with tears streaming down his face. I pretended to forgive him. But when he fell into a coma, I made the decision to let him go. No heroic measures, no desperate attempts to save him. At his funeral, the secretary showed up visibly pregnant. She blamed me, furious that her child would grow up fatherless. In her rage, she grabbed me, and we both plummeted from the balcony. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day I first discovered Charles's infidelity. But this time, I wasn't going to play the heartbroken wife. This time, I personally introduced him to a dozen more lovers. He thought I was madly in love with him, hopelessly devoted. In reality, I was simply looking forward to becoming a young, fabulously wealthy widow with all the time in the world to enjoy it. Chapter 1. Smack! The sharp crack of the slap echoed in the room, followed by a voice I knew all too well. "Donna, how could you do this?" I stared at Charles, still handsome, still the man I once loved. But now, all I felt was cold, hard hate. I couldn't believe it. Somehow, I'd been thrown back to this day, the day I caught Charles in bed with Lily. He'd always been particular about his health, and I'd decided to surprise him with homemade soup. Instead, I walked in on the two of them tangled in each other. In the heat of the moment, I'd lashed out and ended up hitting Lily. Charles, in a fury to protect her, slapped me. That was the moment I saw him for who he really was. Furious, I demanded a divorce right then and there. But Charles dropped to his knees, begging for forgiveness. He even scribbled out some half-baked agreement, promising that if we ever split, he'd leave with nothing. And like an idiot, I believed him. I let myself be swayed by his false sincerity, thinking we could rebuild our life together. What a joke. Behind my back, he kept up the affair with Lily. And if that wasn't bad enough, they even had a child together. I seethed, my blood boiling as I took in the two of them. Without a second thought, I slapped them both hard enough to sting. Before they could even react, I grabbed my bag, faked a few tears for effect, and stormed out. Years ago, I'd given up everything for Charles, my dreams, my chance to study abroad, everything just to help him build his business. We had nothing back then, scraping by in a freezing, run-down apartment. I remember us clinging to each other on those cold nights, trying to stay warm. Once, I even drank 3 bottles of bourbon to seal a deal with a client, ending up in the hospital with stomach bleeding. But it worked. I signed the contract that got us through our toughest time. I'll never forget waking up to see Charles, disheveled and exhausted, sitting by my side. His eyes were red from crying, and his shirt was wrinkled and stained. He held my hand and whispered, "I swear, I'll give you the life you deserve. You're the only one for me always." But that promise had an expiration date. Less than 3 years later, he betrayed me. This time though, I wasn't the same naive woman. I knew Charles wouldn't agree to a divorce easily. Not because he loved me. If he had, he wouldn't have cheated. And he didn't love Lily either. If he did, he wouldn't keep her in the shadows, hidden away like some dirty secret. No, Charles loved one thing: himself. With the company booming, our wealth had skyrocketed. We'd gone from struggling to multimillionaires. If we divorced, half of it would be mine. And even with all his clever tricks to hide his assets, he'd still take a serious financial hit. Charles was too smart to let that happen. But there was one thing he didn't know. He didn't have much time left. I almost laughed out loud just thinking about it. But for now, I'd keep playing the part: tears, heartbreak, the whole show. After all, the best revenge is worth waiting for. Chapter 2. Charles wasted no time cutting Lily loose. Every night after work, no matter how late, he'd stand outside the door of the temporary apartment I'd rented, waiting, pleading for my forgiveness. I didn't say a word. I didn't push him away, but I didn't let him in either. Eventually, one of his friends couldn't stand it anymore and decided to intervene. "Come on, Donna. You two have been through so much together. Are you really going to throw all those years away just like that?" He paused, glancing at me with a look of pity before continuing. "Look, Charles is a successful man now. He can have any woman he wants. Do you think other men don't mess around? They all do. He was just letting off some steam. The fact that he's still coming home to you means you're the one he loves. Why can't you just understand that? I stared at him, barely able to contain my disgust. No wonder they were friends, both cut from the same rotten cloth. I let the tears well up in my eyes and cut him off with a trembling voice. Do me a favor, will you? Tell him to stop dragging this out. Just sign the divorce papers already and end it. I almost felt like reminding him to get a paternity test while he was at it. But seeing how forgiving he was, I figured he wouldn't mind if his wife cheated on him too. In the last life, his wife and his mistress had driven him to complete ruin. Word must have gotten back to Charles, because the next thing I heard, he and his friend had a huge falling out. They weren't speaking anymore. Good. Made it easier for me to watch the drama unfold. Charles tried everything after that, writing me long, emotional letters, reminiscing about our past, about how much we'd been through together. He was hoping to tug at my heartstrings, to make me remember the good times. But I didn't budge. Not a word from me. Then, about a month later, I noticed someone following me. One night, Charles rushed to my side, throwing himself in front of me just as the guy lunged. He ended up with a knife wound on his arm, protecting me. I broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Why would you still protect me? Why? Charles just wiped away my tears like it was the most natural thing in the world. Are you hurt? Let me see. He refused to go to the hospital, so I had no choice but to bring him back to my apartment and patch him up myself. Even as his arm was still bleeding, he pulled out a piece of paper, a handwritten agreement, just like before, offering to leave with nothing if I'd forgive him. He cried as he begged me to take him back. If I hadn't already spoken to a lawyer, I might have been fooled into thinking this agreement actually meant something. Not to mention, the whole thing tonight, the attack, the heroic rescue, it was all staged. A performance, just like everything else with Charles. No matter what he said, I stayed silent. I bandaged his arm, tears slipping down my face, but I didn't say a word. Charles started to panic. Please, honey, it's all my fault. I'm the one who hurt you. Please, just give me another chance. I pulled my hand away from his touch, still crying. Charles, falling for someone else isn't the problem. Before I could finish, he cut me off desperately. No! I didn't. I only love you. I gave him a sad smile. Charles, you're a smart man. You've built a life and a career, and you've had your share of women, haven't you? It's unrealistic to expect you to stay loyal forever. Even if you wanted to, with all the women out there, someone's bound to tempt you eventually. You're just a man after all. No one can resist forever. He shook his head, denying it, but I caught the flicker of guilt in his eyes. I pressed on. I still remember when we were struggling, living in that tiny apartment. We couldn't even afford to pay for heat. We huddled together just to stay warm. We had nothing, but we loved each other. Charles reached for my hand, gripping it tightly. I was wrong. I know I was. Please don't leave me. I blinked back my tears, looking up at him. Charles, you've always had a weak stomach. After a night of drinking, don't just pass out. Make sure to drink some honey water first. Even if I'm not there to remind you, take care of yourself. We've been through so much together. I truly hope you find happiness, but I'm taking our daughter with me. Charles broke down, tears streaming down his face. Please, don't divorce me. Our daughter needs a real family. I need you. I choked on my own words, barely able to speak. Charles, we have so many good memories together. Let's just hold on to those and part on good terms. I couldn't stop the tears that followed. He pulled me close, crying into my shoulder. I've messed up. I know I have. I'm a terrible person, a complete idiot. Yell at me, hit me, do whatever you want, just please, don't leave me. A single tear fell onto my hand. I gave him a sad smile. Do you still love me? His answer came in a rush, desperate and panicked. Of course I do. I just made a mistake. Please, don't go through with the divorce. I didn't believe him. I let the tears roll down my face as if they didn't matter. Charles, I've had a lot of time to think. I love you. That's why this hurts so much. But I need more time to figure things out. After all, I wasn't the one afraid of getting divorced. If Charles wanted to keep me, he'd have to do a lot better than this. Chapter 3. The next day, Charles didn't waste any time. He sent me a formal agreement, transferring a good portion of his assets into my name, along with a report from the hospital showing he'd undergone a vasectomy. It was a decent amount of money, at least on paper. As for the vasectomy, please. It's not like that, and it can't be reversed. But I played along, pretending to be touched. That night, when Charles sent his driver to bring me back to the house, I got in the car without hesitation. When we arrived at the villa, I headed straight to my daughter's room first, holding her close. Only after that did I go to see Charles. He didn't look good, probably still recovering from the surgery. I took the bowl of soup from the housekeeper and fed it to him myself. Charles looked at me with misty eyes. Let's put all this behind us, okay? From now on, we'll make things right. I didn't respond right away. Open your mouth, I said, spoon poised in the air. He complied like an obedient puppy, grabbing my free hand with a smile. For the next few weeks, Charles focused on recovering. I wasn't sure when he and Lily had reconnected in our past life, but this time, I had no intention of giving her another chance to get pregnant. Men like Charles, once they've cheated, they'll always cheat. Some men might change, but Charles? He wasn't one of them. Charles had always been a man who couldn't control his desires, and it was clear he'd be fully recovered soon. So, I casually mentioned to him how his assistant hadn't been smiling as much lately. Maybe he doesn't like the snacks I've been giving him? Whenever his assistant came over to drop off documents, I'd make sure he left with something to eat or drink. Charles wasn't stupid. He got the hint. A few days later, his assistant came to me, grinning from ear to ear. The HR department is finally hiring a new secretary. He even sent me the list of candidates. I didn't hesitate. I went through the profiles and picked a few women competent enough for the job, but more importantly, the kind of women Charles would find hard to resist. I was sure he'd be pleased. In my previous life, Charles had succumbed to kidney failure. They could have saved him, but I had refused to let them. I'd known for a long time that he was cheating on me. Charles wasn't exactly subtle, and I guess he thought I'd never leave him. The signs were everywhere if you knew where to look. But back then, I was too afraid to lose everything I had, so I chose to look the other way. It wasn't until Lily's insanity forced me to wake up. I had to be careful now. If Charles found out about his illness early, there was a chance he'd panic and start handing over his assets to some other woman. I couldn't let that happen. I didn't care about his love anymore, but the money? That was mine. With that in mind, I made a point of telling the housekeeper to prepare more light dishes: chicken and vegetable broth, sautéed spinach with garlic, things that were good for his health. The housekeeper chuckled. You really care about Mr. Wilson's health. Sick people should eat light after all. I smiled but didn't say anything. Of course I cared. If I could, I'd have Charles neutered to make sure he never caused me trouble again. But even with all my planning, Emily still managed to get pregnant. Chapter 4. What really surprised me, though, was that she reached out to me directly. We met at a cafe. Lily arrived, her belly already showing, her expression a mix of jealousy and bitterness as she looked me up and down. I used to think you were just a boring housewife, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Turns out you're a lot more manipulative than I gave you credit for. Lily had always been ambitious. She loved Charles, sure, but more than that, she loved the idea of becoming his wife. She'd overestimated her importance to him. She never expected Charles to cut her off so ruthlessly. But then she got pregnant. That was her last hope, her ace in the hole. Unfortunately for her, Charles didn't take the bait. He cut ties with her completely. So now, desperate, she'd come to me. I smiled faintly and adjusted my scarf, making sure the red marks I'd deliberately left on my neck were hidden. I assume you didn't ask me here just to chat about that, Miss Taylor? Lily's face turned pale, her lips trembling. I don't get it. I'm younger than you. I'm prettier than you. So why did he let me go so easily? I reached for my bag, ready to leave. If that's all you wanted to discuss, there's no point in continuing this conversation. Wait! She called after me, the desperation clear in her voice. I'm over 2 months pregnant. The baby is Charles's. My heart clenched for a second, but I kept my face calm. Are you sure? Her face flushed with anger. What do you mean, am I sure? Of course, it's his. Her outburst drew the attention of a few nearby customers, but she didn't care. She stared at me with defiance. What? Are you going to tell me to leave him? Let me tell you something, I love Charles, and no matter what, I'm staying with him. I sighed, sitting back down. So why haven't you gone to him about this? Lily's eyes blazed with anger. You really think I don't know what you've done? You had him fire me. You won't let him take my calls. You've blocked me from even getting into the company. You're doing everything you can to keep me from seeing him. I shook my head calmly. I didn't do any of that. I wasn't the one who had you fired. I looked her squarely in the eyes. Let me ask you one thing, do you really love him? She glared at me, her voice full of challenge. Of course I do. I handed her a slip of paper with Charles's new secretary's phone number. This is between you and him. I'm not going to make decisions for Charles. Here's his secretary's contact info. Whether he wants to see you or not, that's up to him. Then I reached into my bag, pulling out some cash. You're pregnant, after all. Buy yourself something healthy. Don't deprive the baby. I had no idea if she was recording this conversation, but if she was, I was going to play the part of the generous, understanding wife to the very end. Lily slapped the money out of my hand. I don't need your filthy money. But she grabbed the slip of paper with the secretary's number and stormed out without another word. I frowned and immediately dialed Dr. Thompson's number. I need a favor, I said, my voice cool and steady. Chapter 5. Dr. Thompson didn't mince words when she told me. That woman was on her knees, begging Mr. Wilson to acknowledge the child. But he didn't budge, he refused to admit it was his. I raised an eyebrow. Was it really Charles's child? She nodded. Yes. I ran the tests myself. But Mr. Wilson never even asked. He just walked away from her. I leaned back, mulling things over. By the way, let's keep Charles's health situation confidential for now. If he finds out what's really wrong, he'll refuse treatment. And about those imported meds, let's get him a couple more bottles. I'll keep telling him it's for his recovery, so he'll keep taking them without question. Dr. Thompson laughed lightly. You two must really care for each other. I smiled but didn't linger on the comment. We smoothly shifted to other topics. Charles had indeed been dutifully taking his health supplements. Of course, they were just ordinary vitamins. The real medication? I threw it out a long time ago. As for Lily's child, all it took was a little nudge. I had Dr. Thompson tell Charles the truth that he carried a genetic defect, and it could be passed on to his children. He didn't even flinch. The moment he heard that, he cut ties with Lily entirely. Lily wasn't some naive girl, and Charles wasn't one of those clueless, overbearing CEOs you read about in romance novels. That night, Charles came home late, looking rough. He was pale and tense, like the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders. I met him at the door, and my voice was soft and concerned. Honey, you seem stressed. Have you been overworking yourself? You've lost weight. He took my hand, his grip tight, but his eyes were distant. We need to talk. I followed him into the living room. He sat down, holding a cigarette between his fingers, though he didn't light it. Charles knew I hated the smell of smoke, so even with his cravings, he never smoked around me. For a while, he just stared off into the distance. Then finally, he looked up at me, his expression unreadable. "You knew, didn't you?" I gave him a small sad smile. "Are you asking about Lily?" "Charles, no matter how painful it was for me, she said she had your child. Why did I give her your secretary's number?" Charles sighed, rubbing his temples. "Donna, do you still love me?" Tears welled up in my eyes. "What do you think? When Lily told me she was pregnant, it broke me. I started wondering if everything you said about wanting to make our marriage work was just a lie. But then I thought about it. She's been pregnant for over 2 months, and you cut her off for the sake of our family. I couldn't blame you. But I'm your wife. We're supposed to be doing this together. What was I supposed to do?" His expression softened as he stood up and came over to me, pulling me into his arms. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. I thought." I gently pushed him away, letting the tears fall. They hit his hand and he flinched like they burned him. Regret flickered in his eyes. I looked up at him, my voice shaking. "What did you think? From the start, I never tried to interfere because I didn't want to make things harder for you. That's why I asked your secretary to pass along the message. Whether you met with her or not was always your decision. But you thought I was forcing your hand? Do you really think I would be so cruel as to make you abandon Lily and your child? Is that how little you trust me?" Charles pulled me close again. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I was wrong." I let out a soft sigh, leaning into his embrace, pretending to be too broken to continue. I closed my eyes, letting exhaustion wash over me. Honestly, not everyone can pull off this level of acting. Good thing I've been practicing. Maybe it was all the spa treatments recently, but as Charles held me, his hands started to wander. Men. 1 minute, they're wrapped up in guilt, and the next, they're thinking about other things entirely. I gave him a playful smile, gently catching his roaming hand. "You've had a long day, haven't you? I bet you're starving. I asked the housekeeper to make your favorite barbecue ribs and some mac and cheese." Charles leaned in, a mischievous grin on his face as he whispered in my ear. "But I'd rather eat you." Unbelievable. I smiled sweetly, but inside, I was rolling my eyes. I playfully pushed him away, pouting. "But I'm so hungry. Let's eat first, okay?" Fine, let him eat. It's all his favorite food after all. Might as well indulge while he still can. He doesn't have much time left. Chapter 6. To keep Charles too distracted to mess with me, I made sure he had plenty of opportunities to cheat. It didn't take long, he quickly picked up a few new mistresses. He started coming home with deeper bags under his eyes, but you'd never know it from the smug smile he wore. And feeling a bit guilty, I guess, he showered me with gifts, expensive jewelry, and a few luxury handbags. It's amazing what a man's conscience can buy. But it wasn't long before some of his little playthings started getting restless, each one trying to outdo the other for his attention. At first, Charles found it amusing. I mean, what man doesn't enjoy watching women fight over him? But after a while, the novelty wore off. They didn't stop fighting, they just got louder. And more demanding. Eventually, Charles got fed up and started spending more time at home. Which meant I had to step up my game and keep him entertained. Sigh. That's what I get for being too good at playing the perfect, doting wife. I gently suggested he spend more time out, maybe get a massage, play some cards with his buddies, or do anything to keep him busy and out of my hair. He looked at me with those tired, puppy dog eyes like I'd hurt his feelings. "Honey, most wives would want their husbands around. Why do you keep pushing me away? Are you getting sick of me?" "Oh please. Men and their fragile egos. They think a little vulnerability will make you melt. Nice try, Charles. I'm far too savvy for that." I gave him a soft smile and ran my fingers through his hair. "Of course not, silly. I just hate seeing you so tired. You've been working so hard lately, you've even lost weight." It really worries me. I'll have the housekeeper make all your favorite dishes tonight, okay? You need to eat and rest. His eyes lingered on me, a flicker of desire creeping in. But I miss you. Don't you miss me? Nope. Sure, he's good in bed, but I have zero interest in a man who's been passed around more than a party favor. Still, I couldn't afford to let him get suspicious. I tugged him down by his collar, leaning in close to whisper. Of course, I miss you, darling. But it's that time of the month, not ideal. Before he could respond, I slipped away. If I'd stayed a second longer, I might have gagged. Clearly, his mistresses weren't keeping him entertained for long. That wouldn't do. Being the ever-thoughtful wife, I discreetly texted one of the women who'd been eyeing Charles for a while, casually mentioning that he had plenty of free time these days. That same evening, he got a phone call and was out the door. He cleared his throat, trying to sound casual. It's a client from Beijing. They're insisting I meet with them. Don't wait up, I might be late. I gave him a concerned look, wrapping my arms around him like I'd miss him terribly. Sweetheart, if it's too late, why don't you just stay out? I don't want you to overwork yourself. He narrowed his eyes slightly, amused but suspicious. God, he really eats this up. I quickly let go and flashed him a bright smile. Go on, honey. Don't keep them waiting. Make sure they have a good time, okay? He smirked and gave my hip a playful squeeze. I'll deal with you when I get back. It took everything I had not to roll my eyes. Once he left, I took a moment to collect myself, and then headed to the study to get back to work on my startup project. The assets Charles had transferred to me? I'd already split them. Some went into savings, the rest into investments. Thanks to a few tips from my past life, I'd made some solid returns. Now, I was pouring everything into my own business. If I didn't use the connections and resources Charles had built up to make serious money, well, that would just be plain stupid. Looking back, I can't believe how much time I wasted in that past life chasing after his love like a fool. Chapter 7. Perhaps the wildflowers were too tempting. Charles recently came home looking exhausted, often complaining of headaches and dizziness. I showed great concern verbally, telling Assistant Wang to take him to see a doctor, then went back to my work. CEOs don't have more kidneys than others, overuse them, and they'll fail. But Charles was so busy he barely had time to sleep, let alone go to the hospital. The new project was progressing poorly, and the company was facing various troublesome issues. His mistresses, feeling neglected, started causing trouble. After a few attempts to placate them, they became more demanding. Charles got annoyed and fired one of them. The mistress, unwilling to give up, took the matter online. Charles's good guy image collapsed, and the stock price took a hit. Worse, the biggest client, Hunksin, suddenly announced they would terminate their cooperation next quarter. Charles wanted to explain, but I said, let's deal with this later. The priority now is to minimize losses. Then I quickly had the PR team issue an apology statement in Charles's name to calm the public. Charles also tried to meet with Hunksin's CEO, but the CEO was always too busy. Clearly, they didn't want to cooperate anymore. Charles's headaches worsened, and I told Assistant Wang to take him to the hospital as soon as possible. Then I proactively arranged several mahjong games with Mrs. Zhang, the CEO's wife, without discussing business. After a few games, Mrs. Zhang subtly hinted that Hunksin valued the character of their partners. I figured out the root of the problem was still with Charles. Speaking of Hunksin's CEO, Mr. Zhang, he was a rare clean figure in the industry. Many people wanted to collaborate with him back then, but he chose us. I remember he said, "Many people say my wife isn't pretty enough and can't have children. They all advised me to find someone new. But when I was a poor boy, my wife never despised me. She even worked several jobs to support me. Now that I'm successful, abandoning her would be wrong. You guys aren't the best, not even close. But I see my wife and me in you. So, young people, don't disappoint me." When Charles learned the reason, he regretted it deeply. I analyzed. There are only two paths. One is to develop new clients, but most are in long-term relationships. Poaching clients is hard unless we offer more benefits, which isn't good for our long-term development and might offend peers. The other is to try to salvage the cooperation with Mr. Zhang. Charles closed his eyes, silent for a long time. Both paths were tough. I suggested, Mr. Zhang might be willing to see me. I'll talk to him, but as the company's representative. Charles opened his eyes, frowning. He never liked me getting too involved in the company's affairs. During the company's early development, clients were hard to deal with. Charles was under great pressure, losing sleep over it. I tried various ways and finally secured a few key clients in 2 months. Colleagues started calling me President Yan instead of Mrs. Song. Charles wasn't happy, starting to compete with me in various situations. He also became more demanding at night. Soon, I got pregnant. Knowing he was unhappy, and being a love-struck fool, I resigned under the pretext of taking care of the baby. Charles readily agreed. Back then, I thought if I played the good wife, he would love me forever. But love isn't eternal, people's hearts change. I continued to persuade. It's just a nominal position. You'll still have actual control. We're a couple. No matter how hurt or disappointed I am, I can only face this with you. Mr. Zhang was a sentimental person. I was betting on his subtle humanity. His sympathy for a betrayed woman. Charles finally nodded. I'll convince the company's veterans. In my past life, after Charles died, I hastily took over, but the veterans didn't accept me, uniting to force me out. I almost had to break the company to gain control. This time, with Charles's help, I would become the legitimate leader of the company. I anonymously sent a message to a number. Well done. Clean up thoroughly, leave no traces. Chapter 8. The day I shook hands with Mr. Zhang, Charles suddenly collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. 6 months earlier than in my past life. Mr. Zhang was sentimental but also a shrewd businessman. I had to offer the greatest sincerity, almost giving up 20% of the benefits, to secure the renewal contract. When I rushed to the hospital, Charles had already woken up. I excitedly showed him the Hongxin contract. Looking down, I saw Charles's eyes full of mockery. Donna, you're very happy, aren't you? My heart sank, but I still spoke gently. Securing the Hongxin cooperation and saving the company from losses, aren't you happy? Charles took a deep breath. You knew I was sick, didn't you? It's cancer, late stage. I paused, my eyes reddening. It will be cured. Get out, get out. Charles angrily threw a cup on the floor. I wiped my eyes and went to find Dr. Thompson. She apologized. Mr. Song's condition is too bad. As a doctor, I had to tell him the truth. I nodded, understanding. Please do your best to treat him. Dr. Thompson hesitated. I pressed my lips. How long does he have? At most a month. A month was enough. In my past life, when Charles was diagnosed with early-stage stomach cancer, I actively treated him, helped him recuperate, and even studied traditional medicine. Slowly, he got better. But less than 6 months later, he was back in the hospital with kidney failure. We hadn't been intimate for a long time. I was completely disappointed in him, so when the hospital told me they found a matching kidney, I gave up. This time, because of my deliberate indulgence, Charles's body completely collapsed. Charles, agitated, fell into a coma again. I hired several caregivers and instructed the housekeeper to take good care of him, then went to the company. Charles's illness, coupled with recent events, left the company in turmoil. Several veterans were considering leaving. As acting CEO, I called a meeting, praising the veterans who performed well recently and promising higher year-end bonuses. I also held separate meetings with the business and finance departments and talked to several veterans. By the time I finished, it was completely dark. Checking my phone, I saw several messages from Assistant Wang. Mr. Song is awake. Lily is here too. Mr. Song asked me to contact a lawyer to draft a will. My heart sank. After playing this long, if he dared to leave his assets to someone else, he wouldn't wake up again. Chapter 9. When I opened the door, Lily was holding Charles's hand, tears in her eyes, and Charles looked very moved. Hearing the noise, Charles frowned, as if I were the unwelcome third party. "Get out," I said coldly. Perhaps emboldened by Charles's indulgence, Lily stood her ground. "I just want to take care of Charles." I smiled. "Do you know that besides you, his other mistresses are on their way too? Donna?" Charles was furious, coughing violently. I pointed at Charles. "We're still legally married. If you insist on provoking me, don't blame me for calling security." Lily Chen, teary-eyed, slammed the door and left. Charles coldly said, "Donna, you've gone too far." I laughed, tears streaming down my face. "Charles, you're such a bastard." Charles frowned, as I had always been gentle in front of him. "You promised to love me forever, to be good to only me for life, but you broke that promise. I don't blame you because I cherish our relationship. So even though I knew you had many women outside, I was heartbroken but pretended not to see. I comforted myself, thinking you weren't unfaithful, just too tired and needing to relax occasionally. I know you hate me for not telling you the truth, thinking I'm retaliating. But Charles, the health supplements I've been giving you are actually imported medicine for your treatment. You love spicy food, but for your health, the housekeeper has been cooking light dishes. We've been together for so many years. Don't you know I'm someone who can't tolerate sand in my eyes? But to make you happy, I never questioned your affairs. If you think this is retaliation, I have nothing to say." I smiled bitterly. "Whether you believe it or not, I always believed you would get better. You said you wanted to travel the world with me. How can you leave me alone now?" I cried, and Charles cried too. Although I no longer loved him, acting was easy with so many years of feelings. I pressed his cold hand to my face. "If you really like Lily Chen, I won't chase her away anymore. Whoever you like, I'll bring them here, okay? Just get better. Without you, who will our daughter and I rely on? Charles, I'm so scared, really scared. Please get better soon. You must get better." Charles looked at me for a moment, sighed, and wiped my tears. "I'm sorry. It's always been my fault." I mumbled. "Yes, it's your fault." Charles gently patted my head, comforting me. "Don't be afraid. I'll get better." I nodded vigorously, crying uncontrollably. Everyone knew Charles was really dying. In front of me and the lawyer, Charles left all his company shares and assets to me and our daughter. He held my hand emotionally saying, "Honey, now you'll have to support me." I coaxed him. "That's great. I finally get to experience what it's like to keep a handsome guy." Charles weakly smiled. A gentle knife cuts the deepest. From the moment he betrayed me, his love, guilt, and even his body became my weapons. I didn't believe in any redemption story where he realized his love for me on his deathbed. His love was cheap, whoever wanted it could have it. I only wanted his money and shares. Chapter 10. I was officially appointed as the company's CEO. Meanwhile, Charles was back in the ICU due to kidney failure. I held the director's hand, tearfully pleading with him to spare no expense in finding a matching kidney as soon as possible. Although we both knew a transplant would only prolong Charles's suffering. But I was happy to spend money to show everyone how much I loved Charles. Lily never showed up at the hospital again after that day. None of Charles's other women came either. Charles seemed a bit disappointed. I didn't care about his feelings, using every moment he was conscious to ask him about company management and projects. Although Charles was a scumbag, he was a successful businessman with much to learn from. Sometimes he would suddenly ask, "Donna, do you really love me?" I would ask back, "What do you think?" He would look aggrieved. "You used to get so worried over a minor injury, crying in pain. But now, you don't even notice when my blood backflows." A sick Charles was like a child. I only then noticed the backflow, quickly apologizing and calling the nurse. Due to the treatment, Charles often couldn't sleep at night, crying in pain under the covers. I had to stay up, comforting him like a child. The next morning, I would go to the company with dark circles under my eyes. Everyone thought we had a great relationship. But it was just my way of stabilizing the company. Several veterans who had worked with Charles from the beginning didn't get along with me. But they couldn't give up their hard-earned positions and the company's generous benefits. The better I treated Charles, the more at ease they felt. The more at ease they were, the more I could focus on my career. After all, I was a businesswoman. As long as someone could bring me real benefits and their character wasn't too bad, I wouldn't easily fire them. While I was busy with Charles's futile treatment and my career, I was kidnapped by Lily Chen. Chapter 11. Due to taking care of Charles, I was severely sleep-deprived lately. As soon as I got in the car, I closed my eyes to rest as usual. When I opened my eyes again, the car was in the suburbs. Lily pointed a gun at me, her eyes cold. "Get out!" I obediently complied. "Let's talk. What do you want? Money or Charles?" Lily looked crazed. "What did you do to Charles? Why did he force me to get rid of our child? He promised to divorce you. What did you do to him? And why did he have so many women?" I didn't dare provoke her. "Miss Chen, I understand your feelings. But I never forced him to make you get rid of the child. I'm also a mother. I feel sorry for you." Lily slapped me hard. "You're a useless woman who can't even keep a man. If you had kept his heart, he would only have me now. I'll kill you and then kill the other women. Then he'll only have me." With a bang, Lily staggered, clutching her chest, disbelief in her eyes. "How?" Then she fell heavily to the ground, eyes wide open, blood pooling around her. A police officer came over to support me. "Miss Yan, are you okay?" I shook my head. From Lily being forced to get rid of the child to quietly disappearing from Charles's life, everything was too strange. After all, she was a complete love-struck fool. With her obsession with Charles, she wouldn't have left so quietly. She hated me, both in my past life and this life. Because I was the only Mrs. Song. To prevent her from harming me, I secretly hired several bodyguards, but she hadn't made a move until now. I sensed something was wrong before getting in the car and secretly informed the bodyguards. Fortunately, the police arrived in time. That night, when I visited Charles with my injuries, he weakly pointed at my arm, asking what happened. Due to the lack of a matching kidney, Charles's condition worsened daily, with several comas. I quickly hid my arm behind me. "It's nothing. How are you feeling today?" Charles looked at me without speaking. I sighed. "All right, Lily tried to kill me. Fortunately, the driver was quick and called the police." Charles's breathing became labored. I sneered inside, this was true love. So I kindly told him. "She was shot by the police and died calling your name. She seemed to really love you." Charles's breathing grew more rapid. I didn't mind provoking him further. I leaned close to his ear and whispered. "Do you know why your secretary found out about your affairs? I had someone send her photos of you with those women. I also had someone provoke her to expose your relationships, causing your negative publicity. Who told you to treat me like a fool? Thanks to your scandals, I smoothly took over the company. In my past life, you also died of kidney failure, and I gave up on resuscitating you. The hospital had found a matching kidney, but I heard a child also needed it, so I let the hospital give it to the child, thinking it might earn you some good karma. Oh, don't be so angry. Do you know why your health deteriorated so quickly this time? Because every seemingly healthy meal I prepared for you actually worsened your condition. The reason you were so addicted to my body was because I secretly added drugs to your milk every time. Don't glare at me, I stopped loving you long ago. Every time you touched me, I felt disgusted. I just needed you to be dependent on me, both physically and emotionally. By the way, did you enjoy those women? I picked them based on your preferences. Your kidney failure is worse than in the past life, so you must have really liked them. Charles's eyes rolled back in his head, and he fell into a coma again. This time, he never woke up. I arranged a grand funeral for him, crying so hard that I fainted several times during the ceremony. Everyone thought I was deeply in love with him, and the company's stock price even rose a few points. On the day the new project launched, I made my debut as the new CEO of Song Corporation. The new secretary looked at me with bright eyes, like a wolf eyeing its prey. I flipped my hair. "Ha! Young and handsome with 8-pack abs? Do I need that? I'm young, beautiful, and coincidentally very wealthy. There are countless men trying to win me over. What I need are talents who can help me make money. Looks like it's time to reassign Assistant Wang."